What's up everybody, Matt Moran here for another weekly update. So lots of news to go over here this week. The Chicago Auto Show was also the end of this week as well. So lots of small news stories there from that, but lots of other interesting stuff as well. But anyway, before I get right into it, I also want to remind you guys that hoodies and shirts are still available at the store. There's a link in the description below there to the Teespring store. So if you haven't picked up one of these to keep you warm here on these cold, snowy days, definitely check that out. Anyway, getting right into the news here though. First is, last week I was mentioning the 370 ski is what they called it, which, there's a teaser of a 370Z sounding vehicle in the snow, and I said last week it's going to just be a snowmobile version of the 370Z, and that's exactly what it is. So they basically put skis on the front of a 370Z Roadster and then snowmobile tracks on the rear. It's a fun, cool idea. I mean, I don't want to be the Debbie Downer that's like, oh, what's the point? But it's just, I just wish they would have actually shown some real, substantial improvement to the 370Z, maybe part of that refresh or something, supposedly coming. But instead, we just get a fun little snowmobile type vehicle. Apparently, you can put these treads and skis on just about any vehicle, though, which is kind of cool. They just basically lifted up the suspension like 3 inches to make room for those treads in the rear. And pretty cool result. But, still just kind of silly at the same time. But anyway, interesting that Nissan chose to do that. For some real news here, though, this week, the first debut is Ford has officially revealed the Ranger Raptor. Now, this is only for Australia and the Asia Pacific markets right now. I'll get more into that in a second. Anyway, it looks exactly like an F-150 Raptor. As far as the grille is very similar, the same type of fender flares, steel bumpers, more aggressive bodywork all around, graphics, all that kind of stuff. And I think it actually looks really good in the Ranger application here. You get 11.1 inches of ground clearance, and thanks to those restyled bumpers there for the Raptor version, you get an approach angle of 32.5 degrees, ramp over angle of 24 degrees, and a departure angle of 24 degrees as well. And Ford says the suspension improvements have been redesigned for it to travel at high speeds off-road for long periods of time. That's kind of, I guess, what their goal was with this. So in order to accomplish that, it has Fox Racing shocks, aluminum upper and lower control arms, and larger brakes as well to help slow all that down. Now, since this is for Australia and those Asia markets, it's going to be running a 2-liter twin-turbo 4-cylinder diesel engine, and so that's it does 210 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque, and it all runs through the same 10-speed automatic as the F-150s, so pretty good package there. But yeah, that diesel engine. Now so here's the whole thing. There's a lot of outlets that are saying, we're not going to get this Ranger Raptor here in the States. Of course we're going to get it. I mean, I don't have any additional insider information, but it's just a common sense thing. Why go to all the trouble of developing this if it's only going to be sold in Australia and Asia Pacific markets, where the North American market is the largest truck market in the world, I'm pretty sure. And so if there's anywhere to sell a performance truck, it's America. We just got the brand new Ranger, which is identical to the overseas Ranger, aside from light tweaks to the headlights and taillights, basically. So it's a foregone conclusion in my mind. We're going to get this Ranger Raptor. When is the big question? It could be very soon. Unfortunately, Ford didn't reveal it at the Chicago Auto Show here this week. So that means, they either will do some independent thing, or they'll wait till the New York Auto Show in March, or, sometime later on this year. So we'll have to wait and see, but I really would be shocked if this thing didn't come to the States. That just makes no sense. And, with Chevy having the Colorado ZR2, that offers a diesel engine that actually has an identical 369 pound-feet of torque. So it could be no surprise and no coincidence that this thing has the identical torque numbers, kind of as a signal to say, hey, maybe we'll actually offer this with a diesel for you guys. Of course, we'll also probably get some type of gasoline engine. We know the standard Ranger here in America gets the 2.3-liter EcoBoost motor. For the Ranger Raptor, it could be the 2.7-liter EcoBoost and a specific tune for the Ranger Raptor. We'll have to wait and see. But anyway, interesting to see them reveal that for the rest of the world there. Toyota has their own little off-road enhancements to their trucks. They just revealed at the Chicago Auto Show. So it's the new revisions for this all-new 2019 TRD Pro Package. And there's already been TRD Pro packages in the past, but this one has more significant changes now. It's for the Tacoma, Tundra, and 4Runner. All three get a 2.5-inch 3-inch TRD Fox internal bypass shocks and specifically tuned TRD springs. The Tacoma TRD Pro now has a 1-inch wider track as well for additional stability, larger front sway bar, skid plate, and an available snorkel intake. The Toyota is officially calling the TRD Desert Air intake to help so that you don't get a bunch of debris whenever you're off-roading into your intake there. Also would be useful whenever you're going in deep water. So kind of cool. That's just going to be an option you can add on to that. The Tundra TRD Pro basically is like an appearance package. Sadly, just more aggressive look, TRD exhaust, no actual additional off-road stuff. It seems beyond the current TRD Pro package. The 4Runner version though does get an additional 1-inch lift in the front. I'm not sure why only in the front, but that's what it said. 1-inch wider track front and back for better stability once again. And that one you can also get with this new roof rack that they're revealing as well. That's an option for that. They're all going to be on sale this fall. You can get them either in white, black, or voodoo blue, which is a new TRD Pro exclusive color. And so anyway, cool to see those. Nissan, not to miss a beat, is also getting in on the lifted factory truck craze. So they're offering a 3-inch lift kit now for the new Titan. It's going to be offered through Icon Vehicle Dynamics, which is an aftermarket company, but Nissan partnered with them to make sure it meets OEM specifications. So this is warranted by Nissan. It doesn't void your Nissan warranty. The actual lift kit itself is under warranty by Icon, but this can be installed at the dealer. I'm not sure if it's an after-sale thing or if you can actually equip this on a vehicle that you buy or order, because if you can bundle it into the financing for the vehicle, that is where you're going to get a lot of people that are going to be into that, instead of having to shell out the cash up front there for the lift. If you can bundle it into your financing, that would be pretty compelling. Anyway, that's going to be available this spring on the new Titan there. On to some actual car news, though. First off, there is some info that leaked out about the 2018 Porsche, or it might be 2019 Porsche 911 GT3 RS. So, this was leaked out thanks to drive.com.au, and they posted these pictures. Supposedly there was some embargo that everyone else has agreed to, but they accidentally posted the pictures early and some of the information as well. And so once it leaked out, everyone else just shared that. And so what we learned here, well, obviously you have some pictures of it here, just some light tweaks, but the big news here is that the 4-liter flat 6 naturally aspirated motor now gets 20 additional horsepower for a total of 520 horsepower from a naturally aspirated flat 6 that revs to a glorious 9,000 RPMs. Talk about a special engine, and this is really the last hurrah most likely for this, because we just heard in last week's update I talked about how there's a strong rumor that the next gen GT3 and GT3 RS are going to go with turbo motors. So you want a naturally aspirated flat 6 that screams, this is your last chance. So if you want to buy one new at least. So anyway, they're saying this new 2018 or 2019 version though is still going to only have PDK for the RS. You can get a manual now with a regular GT3, but the RS you can only get PDK still. But anyway, cool to see that. Another Chicago news story is Subaru is celebrating their 50th anniversary with a special edition model for all of their vehicles. So basically, it's just they are painted in this special hue called Heritage Blue, and it actually resembles the old Newport Blue, if you remember from the Subarus. It was on the Legacy GT about 10 years ago and stuff. Anyway, so that's that special color, and it's got like black leather seats with Heritage, embroidery on it, and that's basically it. And they're just limited production, and that's the only changes to them. So they're building 1,050 each of the Impreza, Crosstrek, Forester, Outback, Legacy, and then they're only going to do 600 WRXs in this special color, 250 BRZs, and then 200 WRX STIs. And they said they're available right now, so you can go out and order one or find one on a lot somewhere. And anyway, cool to see that. And if nothing else, it's nice they're adding a new color. I think that blue is pretty good looking. Mercedes this past week officially revealed the 2019 A-Class, and it's a good-looking little hatchback. Unfortunately, we don't get the hatchback here in the United States. Canada, though, will get this hatchback, those of you in Canada, and of course the rest of Europe and the rest of the world will be offered with this, you'll be able to get this hatchback. Us in the States here, we're only going to get it in a sedan version instead. But anyway, this still obviously is going to look identical to the sedan version, just chop off the hatch there and put a normal trunk on the back, and that's what you're going to have. But anyway, it's really good looking, on the outside there, very similar to the CLS, the new one that just was revealed. Really good looking headlights and everything. And I really like it has the same grille you see on like the GLC 43 AMG, the E43. I really like that they've incorporated that grille there, even though it's not an AMG model. I think it's really good looking. Anyway, the interior is also stunning. I still don't know how they're offering this interior in a base A-Class. There must be some type of cheaper, junkier interior because there is no way they're going to offer this thing for, $35,000 with that interior. It's just had those huge screens. I mean, it's basically a scaled down version of an E-Class interior. It's just crazy. It's super nice. But it has that new M-Bucks infotainment screen, they're calling it, which has touchscreen ability now, which is awesome. And all kinds of other, cool features they're built into it. So as far as mechanical stuff goes, Europe's going to get a bunch of diesel engines that we're not going to be getting here in the States. The main engine is going to be the 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, and that's going to be mated up with the 7-speed dual-clutch automatic still, which is really unfortunate. I was hoping they'd go to a conventional automatic for these new A-classes because that dual-clutch, it's what I reviewed way back when in the CLA 45 AMG, and my wife and I even test drove back whenever she was considering a GLA. We test drove them, and just the transmission is just still not there. It's still not smooth enough. And I imagine there's a lot of people that end up going up to the nicer Mercedes models with a normal automatic transmission because of the jerkiness at low speeds of that dual clutch. But unfortunately, they're sticking with the dual clutch for whatever reason here for the A-Class. And I guess that's one of the big compromises over the, larger brethren, even though it looks and, seems just as nice on the inside and out. Anyway, other things here, 4MATIC all-wheel drive is going to be optional. Otherwise, they're all front-wheel drive based there. And the rear suspension is torsion beam on the lowest models. So pretty unrefined rear suspension. But if you go up to the more powerful models, most likely the ones we get in the States will probably all have independent rear suspension with 4 points there. And or 4-link, I should say. And then the all-wheel drive versions, even for Europe, will also get the 4-link independent rear suspension as well. We know an AMG version, at least one AMG version is coming, might be more than one. And actually, there was one just spied this past week, and what is probably the A-Class AMG, the normal sedan one we will get here in the States, gives you an idea of how that trunk's going to be sized and stuff in the rear there. We know this is an AMG version because it's a little more aggressive looking, and if you look closely, you'll see there's drilled rotors there as well. So we know the AMG version is going to be coming very soon here after the reveal of the original A-Class, and so cool to see those. Another Mercedes that was also spied this past week was the 2020 Mercedes S-Class, and so it's looking like it's going to be basically the same car as it is currently, just refreshed front and rear ends again, which is fine because, again, people that are buying S-Classes don't need to have some wild new redesign every few years. It's a pretty conservative look anyway. I think, what everyone's assuming is all the Mercedes are all going to go with the CLS as far as styling goes. Since now the A-Class has it, the CLS, of course, introduced it, and now I think it's going to work its way through the rest of the lineup. So look for more angular headlights, and instead of the vertical taillights, most likely they'll be more horizontal in shape. It's just, I don't know why they kind of do this copy and paste with the styling, though, on all the Mercedes sedans. I wish they were a little more unique, but I'm not going to go on a rant about that. But anyway, we'll have to wait and see, wait for the final design of this. There might be some new stuff. I'm sure it's going to have all kinds of new tech as far as autonomous stuff and things like that go as well. But anyway, interesting to see that. And we have some more Corvette spy images for the mid-engine Corvette here. This thing continues to be spied over and over again. We always get a little bit more info each time. So this time, there's a little less camo up front, so we can kind of make out the shape of the headlights a little bit better. There still is some weird LED element going on there that I'm not sure if that's totally production ready. It seems a little rudimentary, but we'll have to wait and see. Other things, though, here towards the rear, we can now see the rear window a little more clearly, and you can also see the kind of flying buttresses you have there in the rear, similar to what you see on a McLaren 570S, something like that. That does look, pretty good. Again, very heavily camouflaged still, so we can't make out too much. But it does look like we're looking at some production wheel designs as well there. Those wheels look new, at least to me, and seem like, something that's pretty refined and finished there. And so, because we're seeing actual production wheels and they're peeling away some of the camo a little bit, it makes me think this might start to actually be coming out here relatively soon. Maybe we'll actually see it at the New York Auto Show, end of March. Could be later on this year, could be even, the LA Auto Show in November or something, but it just seems like they're getting closer to revealing it to us here. You can see the mirrors a little more clearly now. They're, have these slender little supports on them, and, it looks very exotic in a lot of ways. There's still rumors, whatever this thing is, it could end up being a Cadillac as well. There's not a guarantee it's going to be called a Corvette, because we've been hearing, there's going to be the standard front engine Corvette still produced, and a bunch of conflicting stuff, so, still kind of muddy as far as what's going on with all that. But anyway, cool to see those spy images. Back to some Chicago news, though. Volkswagen has shown off the US version of the Volkswagen Arteon. So it's basically the same as the European version, other than orange side markers. That's really the only change I can see. So they've simplified it here for us in the States. There's a couple options you can get as far as engines go in Europe. Not the case here in the States. We get one engine, one tune, 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder with the 268 horsepower, 8-speed automatic, and front-wheel drive. You can option all-wheel drive, but that's it as far as powertrain options go. You're going to be able to get it with SE, SEL, or SEL Premium trims. And the top one there, that SEL Premium, includes a digital cockpit, panoramic roof, a massage front driver's seat, which is pretty cool. I think that's kind of a new thing for Volkswagen. And Dyna Audio stereo is also included in that top level. Standard equipment across all models, though, are LED headlights and adaptive damping, which is cool to see. They haven't announced a price yet. There's a few sites that were mentioning like a $37,000 base price, which is a little steep. I think if it's going to be that expensive, you're going to be competing with Audis and stuff, and people are going to be like, why don't I just spend a few grand more and get an A4? But, we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully they kind of bring it in a little cheaper than that. But anyway, interesting to see that. Ford has also brought the refreshed Transit Connect, was their reveal here at the Chicago Auto Show. And so it's a new 2019 model here. Now, it's just the refreshed front end, some revisions to the rear as well. Improved interior is also better now. It has a larger touchscreen there, a new gauge cluster. They're all going to be available with an 8-speed automatic, and you can either get it with the naturally aspirated 2-liter 4-cylinder, or there's a new 1.5-liter diesel turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that's available as well. And that's going to be called an Eco Blue engine, and it sounds like that's something they're going to be rolling out more and more here, so we should see a few more diesels here. Maybe that'll be setting up, like I said, for that Ranger Raptor diesel. They'll call it an Eco Blue here, and give it that new labeling. Anyway, that new diesel motor in the Transit Connect is only 120 horsepower, but does have 200 pound-feet of torque. So for a little delivery van, minivan type thing, you're not awful. And they say it should get 30 mpg on the highway as well. So, it should be pretty good for that. And anyway, they're going to be available this fall. Lexus's debut at the Chicago Auto Show was they're showing off these new 10th anniversary edition of the RCF and GSF to celebrate 10 years of the F range of performance vehicles. So, no performance improvements, sadly, on these anniversary models. Again, just matte finished nebula gray paint, blacked out wheels, and blue leather interiors. Look at that. Very bright blue. You even get blue suede. It even has blue carbon fiber accents. Very, very blue interior. If you think this might not be for everyone, that's okay, because this is going to be very, very rare, and only a few people will be able to get their hands on them anyway. They're only making 240 RCFs in this anniversary edition, and they're only doing 100 of the GSFs in this configuration. So really going to be a rare car. They're going to be available this summer, and pricing has not yet been finalized. But anyway, interesting to see those. A few stories from Hyundai here this past week. The first is they've shown off 2 more images here of the 2019 Santa Fe, and this is what it's going to actually look like in production trim before they show it here at the Geneva Motor Show in a few weeks. So it looks good. We'll have to wait till we see more images of it, to have a better idea, but it does look good there on the inside as well. One interesting thing, though, to note about this new safety tech that I'm going to go on a rant for a real quick minute about is they're going to have a couple new systems they're going to have. One's a new auto braking when reversing feature, similar to like the Subarus. Some of those new Subarus have that as well, where if it detects something as you're backing up, it'll automatically stop. That's totally fine, makes sense, for people that are distracted or whatever. But the new system that I don't think I've ever heard about in any other car before is Hyundai's introducing this new safety exit assist. And this technology temporarily locks the doors when it detects cars approaching from behind so that you don't open your door as a car pulls into a parking spot next to you. So basically it's protecting people who, I guess, don't bother to even look to see if there's a car pulling in beside them. Like, all you have to do is look over your shoulder before you open your door. Like, who just flings their door open without looking? I don't... And so I can see how this would be locking. It's going to lock you into your own car briefly until the passing object goes away. But what if it's reading from somewhere else, and so it's just locking you in your car unnecessarily? And again, it's just like all this stupid technology. It's the same thing with like lane keep assist. Like, if you actually are able to pass a driver's license exam, that means you should be able to keep a car within a lane. Why do you need lane keep assist to hold you in a lane? Like, if you can't keep yourself in a lane, you should not be driving. Likewise, if you can't look to make sure that you're safe before you open your car door, all these technology systems are just getting they're just insulting human intelligence, and it's making people more and more dependent on this technology so that it's like you don't have to do any kind of self-preservation anymore. The car just saves you in every possible stupid situation imaginable. It's just... Anyway, I will move on. But yeah, I think that's pretty stupid and sad that that's even something they think is valuable to people. But I'm sure there are people that could use that. So it's just the way things are going. More interesting Hyundai news, though, is they've teased the Kona Electric, which is pretty impressive here because they're going to be showing it at the Geneva Auto Show again in a few weeks. But it's going to be the first fully electric compact SUV on sale in Europe. And I'm sure it's going to be on sale here in the States shortly thereafter. It would totally make sense, of course, but it's going to be going on sale this summer in Europe at least. They're going to be offering 2 different battery packs here for the Kona Electric. The biggest one's going to actually have, they're saying 292 miles of range, which really even beats a lot of the top electric offerings out there. So really good range there. And so anyway, we'll have more details on that in a few weeks. Like I said, just a teaser and a couple little tidbits of information so far. The last little bit of Hyundai news here is that Car and Driver did an interview with the new performance division they have called the N division. Their boss, Albert Biermann, who used to be an executive at BMW's M, he revealed there's going to be N Sport models. Sound familiar? There's M Sport models, and Audi's has their own version, and so does Mercedes. And so these N Sport models from Hyundai are going to be a middle trim level for multiple Hyundai models. Even if that Hyundai model doesn't have a full-on M version, they're still going to have an N Sport for, it sounds like a lot of the Hyundai vehicles. He said it won't include a different engine, bigger brakes, or a whole new suspension or axle, but he's saying that they'll just be tuned for more sporty driving and that they could have higher performing tires on them as well. So, again, a very, very mild middle trim, but, again, for those who want the more aggressive looks, a little bit sportier, but they can't afford to step up for the full-on M, and, then, you go for one of these, and so, yeah, we'll have to see how that develops here over the rest of the model range. Other Geneva Auto Show news here, though, that's going to be revealed is Mazda has shown off a single image for the beautiful new Mazda6 Wagon, which sadly we do not get here in the States because everyone prefers buying crossovers instead of wagons, unfortunately. And this thing just looks so good, though. Like, I would much rather own that over a CX-5, but that's just my opinion. But anyway, we'll have to wait, until the full reveal at Geneva to see the back end and, see all the other angles of it there. But man, that does look good to me. The last Chicago story here is that Fiat has announced that all 2018 Fiat 500, just all the different 500 models, not the Abarth, but all the standard 500s, those are all going to get a 1.4 liter turbo motor now as standard. It used to be you would get a 1.4 liter naturally aspirated engine that only had like 101 horsepower, but now the standard motor in the 500 is 135 horsepower, 150 pound-feet of torque. So it gives you a little more grunt there in the base model Fiat 500s, which is a nice little improvement, although I'm not sure who's buying a new 500 anymore. It just sounds like the interest in those died off real quick. But anyway, good to see that little improvement nonetheless. Jaguar this past week has announced more of these Heritage Edition kind of models where they're rebuilding actual old cars. And so last year they announced the XKSS and I believe the standard road-going E-types that they were doing a few more of those. I don't remember the specifics, but the XKSS was the one that if you actually have been watching the Grand Tour a couple episodes ago, Richard Hammond drove one of those. It's a brand new XKSS from the 50s, which is a really, really cool idea. It's like, I think the factory intended to build X amount and they didn't finish them, and so the Jaguar special operations finished off those last few. And so they're doing it again. So they apparently, back in 1956, there were plans to build 100 new D-type racing cars. And so they were going to build 100. They only built 75. So Jaguar is now stepping in to build those last remaining 25. They're using the original plans and blueprints and recrafting everything perfectly. And it's really impressive the way that they've gone about this. I mean, it's expensive. These are all like over $1 million. So it's very, very expensive, but it's just amazing how they're making a brand new car from 1956, essentially, with the same type of manufacturing methods and everything, all hand built. It's really, really amazing. And so anyway, they're going to build, the remaining 25. They'll be identical to the ones in 1956. And so, yeah, they're probably going to cost, over $1 million each. They're going to be revealed, I think, at the Retromobile Auto Show, which is in Paris, I think, going on here in the next week or so. But anyway, very cool to see that. Some more spy shots here this past week. Ford was spy testing the new Explorer ST. So just, I think, a week or two ago, I was talking about the Explorer ST, and there was rumors it was going to be on a new platform for this all-new Explorer, and that all-new Explorer is still coming. But before then, it sounds like Ford's rushing out these ST models in the meantime. So, just at the Detroit Auto Show, we saw the Edge ST, which is just basically a slightly faster and refreshed version of the Edge Sport that we already had. And it sounds like they're going to be doing the same thing with the Explorer, because we already are seeing this Explorer ST running around. We know it's the ST version because you can see it's got a black mesh grille there in the front. It's got a rear spoiler, more aggressive wheels. Yeah, so that's basically, it's a done deal. This is what this is. And so, there's going to be that all-new rear-wheel drive-based Explorer platform coming again in a couple of years. But in the meantime, this is just going to probably take the Explorer Sport, which currently uses a 3.5-liter EcoBoost V6, and then, giving it a little bit of a boost over the Sport's horsepower, maybe 20 extra horsepower like the Edge, and, do the more aggressive bodywork, and that's it. So I think it's like 350 horsepower is what the current Explorer Sport does, something like that. But it was interesting to note, I think Autoblog noted that this same motor in the Expedition, I think it might have a few slight tweaks to the internals of it so that it can handle higher boost. But in the Expedition, it does 400 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque. And that would be very cool if they just put that same tune there in the Explorer ST and kind of just, gave it that more powerful engine. That would be pretty cool specs for a, performance SUV, although the Explorer is very heavy and large. It still would, be a little bit more pep, would be kind of welcome to see. It's also funny too that this prototype, they had this camouflage that showed what looked like Durango taillights in the back. They actually deliberately made it look like this was a Durango to fool people. Whenever, if you look closely, you'll see the standard Explorer taillights that are actual taillights, and the rest is just like tape or something that they very cleverly put on there. I thought that was kind of funny by whoever at Ford wanted to throw people off. But anyway, because this thing seems to be pretty close to being done, and is these light changes mostly, since it's just a refresh, this could be shown as soon as the New York Auto Show here at the end of March. And so anyway, cool to see that. Chevy was also spied testing the 2020 Silverado HD and HD Dually, and it just looks very aggressive. The grille looks massive based off the camouflage there, and well, that's really all I know about it, all we can really tell so far. We'll have to wait and see all the details whenever that's finally revealed. Kia was also spy testing the next-gen Soul, and this is an all-new version. Seems like they've kind of redone it from the ground up. Still very funky looking, which is good. I'm glad they're keeping it unique and not going mainstream with it. And it's very boxy still, but you can see it has a very distinctive different front end over the current Souls with their large headlights. Now it looks like it's going to be similar to the Kona and the new Santa Fe I just showed you, where it's got the slender headlights at the top there, and then some driving lights or something, fog lights there in the lower portion of the front bumper. And so it looks like it will be good though. Again, heavy camo, so hard to say until we actually see it. This could also be showing up at the New York Auto Show. But this also could be it could be set up that they're going to be offering it with all-wheel drive to better compete with the Jeep Renegade, the Honda HR-V, and a few of the others. Another key that was also spied was the Sportage was spied testing just a simple refresh. And what this refresh looks like, some new taillights in the back, but mostly in the front, I would expect some of the new Forte headlights, very similar to what you just saw in the 2019 Forte. A slight change on those headlights there for the Sportage, obviously for the SUV look and whatnot, but similar in its styling, and should have some other nice changes inside and whatnot. But anyway, interesting to see those spied running around. BMW was spied testing a couple SUVs. They were first spied testing the X4M, which looks really aggressive there in the front, larger front air dams, things like that, sportier front and rear bumpers, quad exhaust, which is a signature M trait, bigger wheels. You can also see it's got drilled and vented rotors, and they're also saying this should use the 3-liter twin-turbo inline-6 motor from the M3 and the M4, so very similar power to the M3 and M4. Auto Guide actually has a source that believes it'll be over 455 horsepower here for the X4M. And they wanted to compete with the GLC 63 from Mercedes there. And there also could be a competition package version coming as well that'll give it an extra 15 horsepower or so. But yeah, I don't know. This could be shown as soon as the Geneva Auto Show because, again, looks really close to being ready to go. So we'll have to wait and see. Another SUV that's also very likely to be shown at Geneva or sometime maybe slightly later this year is the new BMW X5, which has been getting less and less camo put on it recently. So we can see now it's got that huge grille, those kidney slat grills there. It's very, very large these days on these new SUVs. The X7 is going to have a very similar grille and be very similar in styling to the X5. It'll probably just be like a medium and large version of the same basic styling. But anyway, cool to see that running around as well. And a couple cool spy shots from you guys this past week I really appreciate. So Nate Courier on Facebook actually shared a picture of an Acura that was spied running around that he saw, and to me this looks like that new CDX that I was just talking about last week, where I was mentioning how Acura is probably going to take the Honda HR-V and just put the Acura styling on it, make it look similar to an RDX, and call it a day. And that because that's what they offer in China now, and so this just has those newer headlights and things like that. And it looks like that's what's going to happen, and that's what we're seeing here. The reason why I think it's a CDX and not just an RDX is the back end looks a lot shorter than the RDX, which is a key sign this is the smaller of the SUVs, but we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, it's just cool that he saw that out running around, and soon after I mentioned that on the news here. Other things here, Tyler Hampton was in Monrovia, California, when he spotted these two Audi prototypes that he says were driven by engineers from Audi that were speaking in German whenever he was walking by there taking these pictures, and huge thanks to him for taking these pictures as well. And as you can see, it's an old Audi A7 body or S7 body shape there. But you can see there's got some wider fender flares going on there with it. They also don't have any kind of finished rear exhaust. It's kind of just a mule of some sort. Now, whether it's testing, some completely different vehicle or it's testing, a higher performing version of the new A7s, I'm not sure. You would think they would use the new A7 body style if they were testing something A7 related. So this could be a mule for a totally new car or something. I have no clue what they're up to here with this. But anyway, interesting to see that, and thanks to him for sending in those. Fiat Chrysler filed a new patent this past week for a 3-screen dashboard, which, as you can see here, isn't too different from other competitors these days, where you have digital gauges and you have a large widescreen display in the middle. But then you have just as large as the dash display, you have another screen there for the passenger. This is available, like for example, Ferraris have a very small little passenger display, which does control some basic things. And it also does show your gauges, which makes sense in a sports car or something if your passenger wants to see how fast you're going and what your RPMs are. That makes sense. And even if like some of the Ferraris, you don't have a big center screen, so the passenger can't control anything. So this is nice for, again, an application like that. But this, it's like, why does the passenger need a screen if you have that huge widescreen display right in the middle? So, I mean, it could be, again, like it's showing gauges or something, maybe in like a Jeep application, of showing your angle of the vehicle or something like that. But again, it seems like a really expensive option for a very limited use display there. I don't know, but anyway, it's just a patent. Who knows if they'll ever use it? But anyway, kind of interesting to see that. Autocar this past week did an interview with McLaren's CEO, and a lot of media outlets are blowing this up, and I think they're blowing it up to be a little more than it actually is. So he basically was just talking about their plans for widespread hybridization across the McLaren range and autonomous tech in future McLarens, and that's what freaked everyone out. They're like, whoa, I don't want an autonomous McLaren. But first off, with the hybrid stuff, he said hybrid design is part of the next platform. It's designed in from day one, rather than having to adapt existing chassis, which makes sense, because if they're going to try and hybridize all their vehicles, you don't want to try and find some way to fit it into the current body. You just, when you're engineering the new next gen version, you just have it built in, ready to go. So it makes it a lot easier if you want to incorporate it down the road. So he said these hybrids are going to start to be rolled out next year. The first one's actually going to be a successor to the McLaren 570S already. That's going to be hybridized, which is kind of crazy because the 570S still seems really new to me, but I guess they're going to be rolling out a replacement for it next year. They're pretty quick with their product cycles, but that's even faster than I was expecting. I mean, they're literally just rolling out the 570S Spider now, and a year from now, they're getting rid of it, I guess. I don't know. But so anyway, and then they're going to continue on this hybridization through all their new models as far as regular production goes for normal models. And so the 720S's replacement is due in 2022, and that's going to be the last of all the vehicles that are getting hybridized. So they're saying that non-hybrid McLarens will actually only be limited edition models. So it'll be like, well, it's almost like how, with some of the, like with Porsche right now, the only naturally aspirated 911 you can get is the GT3. I think similarly, they're going to say they have the rare limited edition McLarens are going to be the only ones you can get without hybrid stuff. All the other ones, you're going to have to get hybrid in one form or another, which is unfortunate, but again, this is the way things are going. This is why I say fairly often, enjoy what we have right now, because we're still living in this like golden age of cars. It's like the 60s all over again before, the clampdown of everything going electric, getting rid of gasoline engines, downsizing, and just, killing a lot of the gasoline-powered fun, at least. So yes, this is just inevitable. This is the way the politics are going and whatnot, and the way that everyone's decided the future should be. But another thing, though, he's mentioning the autonomous stuff, which freaked a lot of people out, but he says, he's quoted as saying, autonomy in its own right isn't that appealing to our customers, but we need to have capabilities designed in for safety, legislation, and emissions. So basically, he's saying, look, the auto braking stuff is probably going to be law in the not too distant future. All these other things, they're going to force you. You're not going to have a choice. You're going to have this stuff in your car because it's safer for everyone. And so they need to start developing this autonomous tech. So if all of a sudden California says, or London or someone says, hey, you need to have pedestrian braking as standard, McLaren's not able to, or they'll be able to actually sell their cars and be like, yep, we have the technology ready to go. We can incorporate that now and, continue to sell our cars as normal. So I think that's all they're doing is future-proofing themselves, because they know that a lot of these things are probably going to be put into law in the not too distant future. And so that's all they're saying as far as that. I don't think they're going to have any kind of McLaren that races itself around a track just yet. That will probably come eventually, but at least not anytime in the near future. Other future stuff here, Volvo's Polestar division, their new performance electric division, they've officially announced that the Polestar 2, which is going to be their mid-size sedan, so the Polestar 1's like the sport coupe, but they just announced it's going to be like $150,000, and then there's going to be the Polestar 2, which will be a mid-size sedan. Thankfully, they've announced that's going to be a lot cheaper. It's going to be going on sale in 2020, and they're going to be priced at only 40,000 euros, which is roughly translated to about $50,000, but usually whenever we get cars from Europe, it's not a straight exchange rate as far as price goes. It's usually cheaper, so it could even be comfortably under 50,000 here for this all-electric little Polestar mid-size sedan, which will be a great competitor to the Teslas, because they're saying that this thing should have a good amount of battery range to make it a good competitor for all those others. While we're mentioning Tesla, very briefly, I want to say that they also, Tesla has just announced that they're pushing, if you go onto the Tesla website right now, if you want the small battery pack, actual $35,000 Tesla Model 3, they said those aren't being built now till 2019. So you're forced into the $50,000 big battery pack one for this entire year. So it's, again, if you want a Model 3, you want a fully electric car, and you don't want to wait for this Volvo or for a Tesla next year, just go out and buy a Chevy Bolt or a Nissan Leaf. I think, that'll be, nearly as good, especially with some of the questionable quality with the Tesla Model 3 that's been reported recently. It's crazy how Tesla keeps pushing their production back and saying, oh yeah, we'll get to it eventually, and just never seems to happen, just pushing it off indefinitely. Anyway, the last story is also electric car news here. And it actually ties into Nissan. Automotive News is reporting that Nissan is planning on doing 4 new electric vehicles over the next 5 years, and then Infiniti is going to get 2 as well over the next 5 years. Infiniti's first one's going to be coming in 2021. Now, as far as when the others are coming from Nissan, I don't know. We've heard that most likely there'll be a Leaf-based crossover is probably the next one. Makes total sense. And then, beyond that, who knows, what the other 2 will be from Nissan there. But anyway, interesting to hear all that. But yeah, that's it for all the news this week, guys. Let me know your thoughts about everything in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.